Hey movie fans, as we wind down 2024, let's look ahead to the year that will be 2025. Now on paper, 2025 looks to be a massive year at the box office, but what are the titles in particular that are standing out to me that I'm really looking forward to? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today as I give you my top 10 most anticipated movies of 2025. But before we get into all that, what movies are you most looking forward to? What are the ones that are getting you the most hype that you're most looking forward to? On the flip side, which ones are the ones that you think you're going to be steering clear of, that you have all the red flags in the world for? Whatever you're looking forward to or not looking forward to, I want to hear from you. Let me know down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's kick this list off at number 10. I'm really looking forward to Paddington in Peru. Now this franchise has no right being as good as it is. I love the Paddington franchise so much. I like the first one. I love the second one even more. It's almost a joke now at this point, with the unbearable weight of massive talent making that great Paddington joke.
Paddington 2 is incredible.
But it's true, this franchise is genuinely special, heartfelt, emotional, and just a charming bit of cinema whenever these movies come out. I am a little cautious, which is why this is only at 10 and not higher, because the director of the first two movies, Paul King, didn't return for Paddington in Peru. He was busy making the Timothée Chalamet Wonka movie. So will it be very different without that same director in charge? Potentially. I'm cautious, but I'm cautiously optimistic all the same, just because so far I have not been led astray by Paddington. It is one of the most consistent and heartwarming franchises out there, and I want that trend to continue for Paddington in Peru. Next up at number 9 starts the horror movie section of this countdown, and it starts us off strong, hopefully, with Until Dawn, the live-action adaptation of the iconic PlayStation game. Now, I'll be honest, the cast is not really what I'm looking forward to with this movie, because other than Peter Stormare, no one is really coming back from the video game for this movie, which I totally get, but it's not really the cast that's getting me excited necessarily. It is one, the branding. I love Until Dawn so much. I play it every single year. I just love Until Dawn as a story just because it's the cliche group of teenagers in the woods story, and I'm a sucker for over-the-top slashers and add in a supernatural element, and I'm gonna probably be on board. But the big element for me that I'm going, yes, 1,000 times yes, I'm going to be absolutely checking out Until Dawn day one, is the director, David F. Sandberg. David F. Sandberg is one of my favorite directors working today, just for the consistency, but also the personality that he is. David F. Sandberg kind of more or less came up from YouTube and making horror short films, and then got his own feature film. He started making a short film called Lights Out. He got the feature film version of that made, which is a great and terrifying movie. Did Annabelle Creation. I just really love David F. Sandberg's output. I love his story. I just love him as a director. He's a really cool guy. I'm super excited to see what he does with Until Dawn. I'll be curious how they approach the choose your own adventure aspect that was in the game, if they'll be like alternate versions. I don't think that'll play in theaters, although it would be cool if they do what they did with the original Clue movie of like alternate endings. I don't think they'll go that far. At number 8, we have another horror movie, and this one is 100% a guilty pleasure on my part, but I do not care in the slightest. The new I Know What You Did Last Summer reboot, sequel, whatever. The trend that's been continuing on with Scream, Halloween, whatever else, now it's I Know What You Did Last Summer's turn. And guys, Freddie Prinze Jr. and Jennifer Love Hewitt are back for this movie. Nothing else matters. The fact that they're back and it's I Know What You Did Last Summer, it's all I care about. I don't care about anything else. This movie is probably not going to be that great. I will be there day one. I don't care. I am a sucker for dumb, cliche, cheesy 90s slashers. I love both. The original I Know What You Did Last Summer, and I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, the sequel that is absolutely not great, but I don't care. And I have been wanting a new I Know What You Did Last Summer for a very long time, and I am very hyped for this. Should I be? Probably not, but I will not be dissuaded in my enthusiasm for this really schlocky franchise. At number 7, and rounding out our horror movies that I'm looking forward to in 2025, we have Predator Badlands, more or less kind of the sequel to Prey, which if you haven't seen it, Prey was absolutely fantastic. And I know some people are like, it should have gone to theaters. Predator Badlands needs to go to theaters. Prey, I still think they needed to rehabilitate the image of the Predator franchise, so putting one movie on streaming was probably for the best in the interim. Now you put this one in theaters, again, because people are like, oh wow, the last one was really good, because Prey was really good. It's clearly not going to be a direct sequel to Prey. They've said it's going to be in a different time period altogether, and according to reports, the Predator itself will be the main character, so I'm curious to see the approach on that. Why I'm looking forward to it: one, the success of Prey, they've earned the goodwill with me, but two, it's the same director, Dan Trachtenberg. I loved what he did with the previous film. I have complete confidence in him. 10 Cloverfield Lane by the same guy. Excellent movie. He has earned my trust. I like what he does. I'm very curious to see what he does with the Predator franchise going forward, and I'm still butthurt because I refuse to let it go. Dan Trachtenberg was the last name to drop out of the Uncharted movie before he dropped out due to creative differences. Before they brought in the other guy, Ruben Fleischer. And Dan Trachtenberg would have been 1,000 times better, and I still haven't let. So I think Predator Badlands is one that I'm really looking forward to. I don't see a whole lot of buzz about it right now because we're still a little bit a ways away, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is another one of those Predator movies that over-delivers again. At number 6, we have a live-action adaptation of a beloved animated movie with How to Train Your Dragon. I was cautious when they announced that they would be doing a live-action adaptation of the original How to Train Your Dragon movie. I'm going, it hasn't been that long since the first one. And DreamWorks, you tend to leave the live-action remakes to Disney to varying degrees of success, but How to Train Your Dragon 100% won me over with that first trailer alone. Oh my gosh, that looked gorgeous. And is it just because John Powell's music is working overtime and that's honestly one of the biggest cheat codes in any movie? But I think the visuals look spectacular. I like the casting choices. I think this movie's gonna be a lot of fun. I think it's gonna be one of the biggest success stories of 2025. If it's as good as the original or even remotely close. I think there's a lot of people that are emotionally tied to the franchise for How to Train Your Dragon, including the people making it. So I think there's going to be a lot more love and care put into this movie than other live action adaptations. Maybe I'm just being too optimistic, but I think there's some good stuff happening with How to Train Your Dragon, and I really hope this movie delivers. Next up, at number 5, we have Wake Up Dead Man, better known as the next Knives Out movie. I love the Knives Out franchise so much, particularly the first movie. Glass Onion was fine. It wasn't nearly as good as the first Knives Out, but Glass Onion was a fun continuation. I love a good mystery story, and I really like the character of Benoit Blanc. I think Daniel Craig brings 120% to that role. He's having the time of his life. I love what Rian Johnson does with this series. I just love a good mystery. I'm curious to see what the direction for this one is going to be. At the time of recording, we really don't know that much about it. I like that they're able to keep things under wraps for the most part. Plus, this will not have the restrictions that Glass Onion had of when it was filmed. I think Glass Onion was filmed around 2020, 2021, so not having to worry about that when you're filming or writing or anything else will probably benefit this movie, because I feel like you could tell with Glass Onion that they had to work around some stuff, and I'm hoping that's not the case for Wake Up Dead Man. Next up at number 4, we have The Fantastic Four: First Steps, the Fantastic Four's first movie in the MCU. Did I put this in the 4 hole just because the 4 and Fantastic Four? A little bit. I'm not gonna lie. That kind of factored in a little bit. I am genuinely excited, more so curious about this movie. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of some of the casting for this. Some of it just feels off or weird. That being said, for the most part, Marvel has given me no reason to question their casting department. They have, for the most part, cast their roles incredibly well across the entire MCU. I know people have said the quality has dipped post-Endgame. For the most part, the casting has still remained incredibly strong. It's the movies and the writing that has been fairly inconsistent. I'm still excited to see what they bring to the table with Fantastic Four. I read a lot of Fantastic Four growing up. Spider-Man was always my guy when it comes to Marvel, but I've read a lot of Fantastic Four stories. They crossed over a lot, and I've wanted to see a good Fantastic Four story for the longest time. I like the individual actors in this movie. I'm just curious to see how they perform in that specific role that they're in. Plus, we know we're getting Galactus, which is one of the top 5 characters that I have wanted to see done correctly on the big screen for the longest time. I'm so excited to see what they do with Galactus. I'm very curious to see what they do with Galactus. I hope that it's a good self-contained story. I know there's probably going to be ramifications for the larger MCU and the whole multiverse stuff, but just tell a good Fantastic Four story first, then tell everything else later. Make that secondary to the main story. But you guys have to really nail this one because there've been so many bad Fantastic Four movies, and at bare minimum, it should be better than Fan Four Stick, because oh boy, I can never forgive that movie.
What the hell was that?
We're really getting into the weeds now. At number 3, we have Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. Mission Impossible is one of my absolute favorite series going today. They are consistently one of the most fun and entertaining franchises for me ever since about the 4th one on, which is weird to say. But Mission Impossible 4 / Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol is genuinely one of my favorite action movies of all time. Then Rogue Nation was great. Mission Impossible Fallout is right up there with Ghost Protocol, and some people even put Fallout above it. I didn't love Mission Impossible 7 as much, just because that felt like the victim of being part 1 of a part 1 and part 2. I think the bar has been set so high with this franchise, just with its stunts, its stories, its characters, and now that we've gotten a lot of the exposition and setup done part 1 with Dead Reckoning part 1, and we just get the Final Reckoning here, this should be the all-out send-off to the franchise. Now, I know Tom Cruise doesn't want this franchise to end, and Paramount's like, we spent a lot of money on these and they're not necessarily making the money that they used to, so let's kind of wrap this thing up. They're marketing it as the final Mission Impossible movie. Whether it is or not, I don't know if I buy it. It might be the final for Ethan Hunt's team. I might go out on a limb and say that, but I just love this franchise so much, so anything they bring out, I'll be excited for. I'm just curious and excited to see what Tom Cruise brings to the table with the next Mission Impossible movie, as I always will be. At number 2, some people might be surprised to see it up this high, but I don't care. Karate Kid Legends, starring Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio. I have waited genuinely years for the moment that Daniel and Mr. Han meet in a Karate Kid movie, and I never thought it would happen. I kind of had my fingers crossed it would happen in Cobra Kai, but I've kind of given up on that. But now we know it's happening in a movie, and I was already hyped before. But then they dropped the first trailer for it, and I was just blown away. I was like, oh, this just naturally works. These characters already feel like they just piece together so perfectly. I'm a huge fan of Karate Kid, huge fan of Cobra Kai. I have just been a huge Karate Kid fan. I've wanted this to continue. I want to see more of Mr. Han. I really like what Jackie Chan brought to the table. I know not everybody loves that Karate Kid. I personally love it. I love all the Karate Kids except for the Hilary Swank one. I'm very curious to see what the direction is of, you have this dude that already seems pretty competent in his fighting style, but we have to add on to that. I think that could be a really interesting dynamic as opposed to a starting from scratch type of character. It's just Karate Kid. Of course I'm going to be excited for it. And of course, that leaves number 1. Say it together with me, because I'm sure you all know where I'm going with this. James Gunn's Superman. No joke, people. I have had a countdown on my phone for the release of this movie since the day they announced it. I have been so beyond excited with this. Whether it was the little tidbits that James Gunn has been saying about this movie, or like the comics that he said has inspired him, like All-Star Superman, Superman 4 All Seasons, or Kingdom Come. I'm just a big Superman fan, and I've wanted a joyful, optimistic, helpful, kind Superman for the longest time. I love Henry Cavill, but I feel like he was never properly given the time to shine and develop into the Superman that we know he could have been. He wanted that, but Warner Brothers more or less screwed him over. And now we're getting the Superman that I've always wanted. Then the trailer came out, and you saw my trailer reaction. I genuinely had tears of joy in my eyes. It looks so perfect. It looks like the superhero movie that I've wanted for a while. Not just because it's Superman, but the movie genuinely looks to have a tone of hope and optimism. Something that I have wanted for a long time in superhero movies. We've kind of gotten in this age of cynicism with not just superhero movies, but movies in general, of winking at the camera and going, yeah, this is a little cheesy and dumb. Like, no, let's just be good people, make good movies, that are cheerful and optimistic and hopeful and encouraging. That's what I want to see for superhero movies. Movies that lift us up. That's what Superman's supposed to be. And I get that vibe from this movie. And I am so beyond excited. And I really hope it sticks to landing. I trust James Gunn. So far, movie-wise, he really has not let me down. I'm really looking forward to what he brings to the table. But what do you guys think? What are your most anticipated movies of 2025? What movies do you think will absolutely be stinkers in 2025? Whatever your thoughts, let me know down in the comments below as I hear from you guys. And as always, if you like what you see and want to see more, subscribe to the channel. And as always, stay sharp, movie guys and gals.